Hey y'all, Katie here with Team EvoAZ at eXp Realty. Thank you so much for listening to our show. We are super excited for this season. As you know, we are based in the Phoenix, Arizona area, but what you may not have known is that we're growing our team nationwide, and we have already started. So if you know of anybody that is looking to buy or sell throughout the country, no matter what state it's in, please contact us. We'd be happy to help. We'd be happy to offer advice. And if you know of anybody that is either getting into the real estate industry or is looking for an awesome change in their career and in their lives, we are also hiring real estate agents across the country. Thanks again and enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, we are here. It is Katie and Matt, and oh yes, please introduce yourself.
Matt Lambert.
For those of you who didn't see season 1, we are Katie and Matt with R.E.A.L, or R.E.A.L with Katie and Matt, and that stands for Real Estate and Life. We did a podcast. We did season 1 of our podcast last year, and we are now starting with season 2, and I am pretty darn excited because our very first guest for our episode 1 of season 2 is none other than the Team EvoAZ buyer agent extraordinaire rock star, Alex DeRuger.
Welcome.
How you guys doing?
Oh, yes, yes. Everybody
Hello,
cheer
everyone.
and clap for Alex. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing okay.
Great. Wonderful.
Hanging in
I'm
there.
excited to be on the first episode of the new season.
How lucky are you?
I'm super lucky. I feel blessed.
Awesome. Well, let's just dive right into it. So our topic today is really relevant, right? So it's pretty crazy out there. It's a bit of a jungle. Tell us just a little bit, Alex, about your experience working with buyers in the current conditions.
Yeah, so we're working with a low inventory, meaning that the amount of homes on the market is very low. The amount of homes that are in let's say the particular neighborhoods you may be looking in are going to be low. So what does that lead into is a lot of competition. And there are a lot of buyers on the market, which this is in turn resulting in multiple offers with each property. So in order for our buyers who are seeing the most success, we are putting the most competitive offers in there in order to land our contracts.
Absolutely. So we have a couple of tricks up our sleeves, do we not?
Yeah, we have a couple of tricks.
And we're going to share some of those tricks today. And then some of those tricks are, well, you have to talk to us to get those tricks. Sorry.
Yeah, that is true.
Some of those are tried and true Team EvoAZ tricks. So we keep those close. But anyway, let's talk about a couple of the basics, like a couple of things that people can do to better their chances in securing the property when there is a multiple offer situation. So answer me this question, because a lot of people think this, but in terms of like in your experience and what you've dealt with in the last, say, 3 months, are sellers just opting for the highest price? Like what's going on there? Are they just, hey, the one who's going to pay me the most, that's the one who gets the bid?
No, especially if you are offering a financed offer, they're not going for the highest price. And the reason being is they want to see terms that are favorable to them too. And these terms can be a whole plethora of different things that you build into the contract. So it's not always the highest price, because most likely if you shoot for the highest price, you might have some issues with the appraisal down the road. Depending on the terms that you have built into your contract.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm experiencing too. And I got this idea a couple of years ago to actually call the listing agent. Wow, who'd have thought?
Yeah.
And ask them, what's going on with your seller? What's the situation? Is there anything that I can do with my buyer's offer to, what are their hot buttons?
Yeah, honestly, the first step, and honestly the easiest step, is picking up the phone and calling the listing agent, because then you get a chance to are you working with multiple offers?
Right.
Do you need to go crazy with it? And B, maybe you can get a little bit more information out of them. What is the seller specifically looking for with their offers? Are they looking for the highest price? Are they looking for favorable terms? Those are the biggest things when you pick up the phone after to call your buyer and advise them on how we should build this offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's ultimately the relationship that you as the buyer's agent has with that listing agent is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're kind of progressing into this, you're planting seeds. And so that first, that first reach out is kind of your first seed. So you're really making an impression on them, showing them how detailed you are, which ultimately just adds that much more weight to your buyer that you're representing in the offer that could become.
That's 100% giant. And we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of tips, and then we're going to talk about the listing agent standpoint, because as you know, I'm mainly list properties. I mean, I work with buyers too. I can do it all, right? But mainly I'm the listing agent on the team. So I'm dealing with a lot of this stuff. And it's really, really important. And we've always said it, right? It's really important to develop and maintain a really good relationship with the other agent, because not only is that a good way of doing business, but that's going to get you to more of a win-win if there are some hiccups and speed bumps and things along the way in the transaction.
Yep.
And,
I absolutely agree.
It's funny because last week, we listed 2 properties last week. They were sold within 24 hours, both of them. One of them in particular had 40 not 40 offers. My goodness, I'd lose my mind. Had 40 showings in one day. Okay. I received 8 offers total on that property. Guess how many of those agents reached out to me to say, hey, just want to introduce myself. Just wanted to see, what's going on with your sellers. What can we do here? Any guesses? Either one of you?
I can't.
I'm going to say 1.
3.
3. Okay.
Less than half called me to even see what was going on.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's rough.
That is rough. I feel so bad for their buyers. Do they not know they need to communicate in this industry? Then I open up my email and I see their offer. Well, I don't know who you are. I don't know the story behind this. I don't sorry. I'm going to deal with the people that my sellers, I'm going to advise my sellers to deal with the people that we know more about, because it makes more sense. Yeah. Because we can see things, red flags, things like that. We can see problems before they happen. We can see opportunities. Mm-hmm. And that's a better way to compare offers between each other.
Yeah. So and it's all about impression too, I think, as well. You want to bring a good impression to the listing agent. The buyer's agent's never going to talk to the seller. The listing agent is. They're going to be your medium. So, as a buyer's agent, you want to leave a good impression. You want to tell them a little bit about your buyers and why they should choose them. So, mm-hmm. In that communication before or after you put your offer in, it's always key.
It truly is. And in this particular example, the one agent that ended up winning the home did call. She was amazing. She told me their entire story. She asked what I needed flexibility in. She gave me that flexibility. There was another offer that came in $2,000 higher than the one we accepted.
Yeah.
And those things just really matter. In terms of, we'll not talk about price yet, but in terms of things that buyers can do to really help themselves in these situations, I think something that is overlooked quite a bit is the complete, or I should say the accuracy of the pre-qualification letter.
Yeah.
Right? How many of those do you see that you never get up front to begin with?
Yeah.
Well, and it's also, once again, a demonstration of the most important thing a buyer has: their ability to purchase that home. That document represents everything. It represents how much they're putting down, how diligent and detailed their lender is, which plays a huge role in this. You get the contract accepted, but then you're passing your baby off to the lender and it's in their hands.
Right.
And any experienced agent on the listing side knows that. So if you can articulate that correctly and kind of support that qualification from your buyer's stance, you're ahead of most.
100%.
Absolutely.
So what kind of things are you making sure that are in place with your pre-qualifications before you're going after properties? Like what is give me the rundown with your buyers.
So any experienced or detailed listing agent is going to look at a buyer's pre-qualification letter like a hawk.
Mm-hmm.
If I see documents that haven't been put into the lender and the pre-qualification letter expresses that, I'm like, oh shoot, this needs to be done immediately, and it needs to be done before we present this offer. Because A, that's gonna show the listing agent, oh, this could fall through at any minute because they didn't have all the documentation, or B, this buyer's agent doesn't have a good check on their buyers. He hasn't made sure that all their documents are into the lender. So it can kind of make you look unorganized on your part too, because you don't know, really what's going on with your buyers in a whole broad spectrum. If I see only a credit check that's been done on a pre-qualification letter, that's a big red flag. So I want to make sure I have a full pre-qualification letter. I want to make sure, hey, if they say there is no contingency, there's no contingency built into the offer, I want to make sure, it says that they either do or don't need seller concessions. And if they say they do need it, it's reflected that in the purchase contract. I want to make sure these are all reflected into the offer that's been built. Just so there's no inaccuracies, just so the listing agent isn't calling me, asking me questions, and is confused by either the offer or the pre-qualification letter. So yeah.
Totally agree. I can't tell you how many times as a listing agent I've received an offer that is requesting seller concessions. So for those of you who don't know what seller concessions are, these are closing costs basically, or costs that are paid by the seller on behalf of the buyer. So I'll have that, come across on an offer. Okay, they want 2%, whatever, concessions. And then the pre-qual says they don't need it to pre-qualify. Or the other way around. They don't ask me for any concessions, and their pre-qual says they need concessions.
Yeah.
So, hey, wait a minute. Maybe that's just a quick, oh yeah, no, I'll just get it edited and get it fixed. But now all of a sudden, as a listing agent, I kind of have a bad taste in my mouth.
You have a question.
Bad taste, and you're on defense.
Yeah.
You're in question, and that's just a skeptical position is not a good position. So
exactly, because we don't see their bank accounts, only the lender does. So we have no idea really what we're getting into and the accuracy and what's the truth and what's the lie. Just checking boxes. That's tough.
Yeah, and when I have 3 other offers that have perfect pre-quals and even better, I know the lender that they're using. Like I've heard of them before. Like it's not some teeny little tiny, little lender in the corner of North Dakota or something like that. Somebody that has an office here. I've heard of them before. I've probably worked with them before is the likelihood if, they're any good around here. So I think that's important. Now you also go a second step. You go a little bit deeper with this, and you often have your buyers' lenders calling the listing agent. Tell me a little bit about that and why that's important.
Absolutely. So you're not only building a relationship with the listing agent, but your buyer's lender is as well. They want to know how this guy works. They also want to know from his mouth how qualified these buyers are too. Now, if your lender reaches out, says, hey, I'm going to get you updates. If we go into contract, I'm going to get you updates once a week in writing, so you know what's going on with the buyer's forms. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you choose our buyers, you're not going to regret it. It's going to go all smooth financially wise. And I love when our lenders reach out to the agents, because it just puts a great impression and it puts a good taste in their mouth. And it's another positive thing they can go back to the sellers regarding our buyers.
And I think it's just a good reflection of how the transaction is going to go. We're very proactive in our approach before we even get to the point of contract. So that's really assuring, I think, to that party. That's a great thing to do.
Totally agree. So now that we're on the subject, or still on the subject of lending and pre-quals and fees and all of that, let's kind of switch gears toward fees, home warranty, HOA fees, closing costs, things like that. What, first of all, Alex, are the normal common fees that a buyer is going to run into?
So the fees that you can request on your purchase contract are going to be your closing costs. So those are title escrow fees, lending fees, loan origination fees, etc. And those are all going to depend on your lender and the title company you choose, but they're usually about 2 to 3% of the purchase price. Now, your second fees that you're going to run into are your home warranty, and that is a choice, if the buyer wants to purchase them or not. And the second choice is whether, hey, you want to cover it yourself, split it 50-50 with the seller, or ask the seller to pay for the full amount. Usually with a typical property, without a pool, your home warranty is going to be anywhere from $350 to $500, depending on the options you choose. And then with a pool, it's going to be $750 plus. It all depends on what options, if you have add a water softener onto there, et cetera, et cetera. Your other fees are going to be, if the home is located in an HOA, you're going to have HOA transfer fees. You're going to have prepaid disclosure fees and capital improvement fees. And those are all going to depend on the HOA that you're located on for the amounts. And then those are also items that you can either cover yourself or ask the seller to cover for you. And the situation that we're talking about in a competitive market where we want to put the most competitive offer in and be the strongest offer, all those items you ask for the seller is another dollar out of their pocket. So that's what you got to think about as a buyer when you are negotiating those items. Obviously, it's another dollar in your pocket, out of your pocket as well, but a percentage less chance that you may land the property too. So.
Right. And with the way things are going right now and the way equity is going, like north.
You're making that money back in the 30 days you're on the contract.
Exactly. We're seeing a lot of that. So your advice is if at all humanly possible to cover these fees yourself as a buyer, it's really important to do so. Some people you can't waive an HOA, but you can waive a home warranty. If you don't want to get a home warranty, you do not have to get one. I have a lot of buyers that think you have to get one. You don't. Are they a good idea? I would say.
Yeah, they're a great idea. And, it kind of comes down to like we were saying before, we do have some tricks and stuff like that. We can't give you all our secrets, but by not opting to take the home warranty initially and have the seller pay for that through concessions or through themselves, it kind of gives you a little bit more leverage later on, which we could talk about when you call us. But
we'll tell you all about that. But yeah, so bottom line, pay your fees if you can pay your fees. All right, guys, let's throw out a couple more nuggets to this audience here. So talk to me about price.
Yeah.
So give me some tips on how you go in. So is it always paying the list price, or do you do something different?
So like I said, we always want to call the listing agent and see if they're working with several offers or multiple offers, how many showings they're getting, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I always run comparable sales, and comparable sales are going to be the last 90 days of sales within that neighborhood subdivision. I like to look at and see what those prices are coming out to be. And that way I can see how this home is priced, if it's priced aggressively, if it's priced, above market, below market, et cetera, et cetera. And I can get a good read on the pricing of the property by doing that. Now, if they're not working with any offers and it's several days on the market, et cetera, then I'm definitely going to I'm going to advise my buyer to go with what the comparable sales are telling me. Okay. And, if that's 5,000 or 10,000 below the list price, or if it's right at list price, it all depends on what those comparable sales are telling me. Now, if we're working with multiple offers, I am definitely going to see what the highest sale of that floor plan has been in that subdivision for the past 90 days and see what that price is. Now, that doesn't mean we have to go in at that highest price. There are a couple of, I guess you could say, strategies we use to make sure that we don't need to initially go at that price. And I don't know if we're saying that strategy today.
Give it to him. We'll give him this nugget.
So this is called the escalation clause. And what the escalation clause is we go in at a set price, a beginning price. And this is usually around list price or a couple $1,000s above list price. Now, what the escalation clause does is it gives two numbers to the listing agent and the seller. One is a number that we're going to beat every single competing offer by. This can be $1,000, this can be $2,000, $3,000. So every single competing offer, we're going to beat them by X amount. Now, obviously, this could skyrocket. So you want to put a cap on that. So let's say the home is listed at $350,000. We put in a $350,000 offer. We're going to beat every single offer by $2,000 up to $360K. So that is the highest amount we will go with this offer. And that's the escalation clause. So we see this strategy work a lot. And we also, the great thing about it is your buyer isn't going above their limits. They're setting a cap on how much they want to go above. They don't need to keep writing new offers to try to keep up with the other multiple offers that are coming in. And, they're not putting too much stress on themselves. So this way we can put in one offer. We put it, we set the highest amount we're going to offer, and we make sure that we're going to beat every competing offer. And it's just way more clean that way. Instead of just keep on writing up new offers and offers and offers, trying to beat the next one that just came in. So, yeah.
The escalation clause works. Now, it's not that easy, though. There are some other strategies that are involved with appraisal and whatnot that is not part of this topic. So that's something that I know you because I know how you work, and I know that you go through those strategies with your buyer when you guys are sitting down, talking about the contract and figuring out, which foot you want to put forward. But I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that there are a couple of moving parts in there in terms of appraisal and things like that.
Absolutely. And also strategy, that you can use, which we can't give those tips on, but it goes even deeper than that as far as the psyche goes, the psyche of this seller, the psyche of the seller's agent. It's all those things that we really have to understand as an aggressive buyer's agent, and knowing that these are going to be trigger points. So, but it's such a great tool in this market, especially when Kate mentioned earlier that listing agents are getting 10, 20 offers. They're exhausted. They don't want to go through this and deal with multiple counter offers and all that. If all of a sudden they have an offer that has everything they want, has this escalation clause, it's going to avoid opening Pandora's box to all this emotion that goes into multiple offers. They usually end up taking it. They love it. It's clean. So great tool.
Yeah, it is. It is a huge tool. And then further, to solidify your position further, again, because I know how you work, you send over comps and a whole report and commentary and all of this to the listing agent too, don't you?
Yeah, so it's actually hilarious. This offer that I put in yesterday, I did the same thing. I got my list of comparable sales. I said, this is why we came in here. And that just gives justification because, it's not a shot to the listing agent. Maybe they missed the comparable sale that you saw, which justifies the higher price that you came in at.
Right.
And we don't want them to be scared about the appraisal. And, we want them to be comfortable with the pricing. We don't want them to add hurdles in their head that they think this contract may become. So that's why we say, hey, this is the reason why we did this. And those comparable sales will justify that. Now, another thing, like you were saying, as far as commentary goes, sometimes it isn't all about numbers for these sellers. These sellers may be still the same owners since the 70s, 80s, etc. So knowing they're passing the torch on to another family that's going to take care of this home and love it is a huge thing. So if you can have your buyers write a beautiful letter about their family, the reason why they deserve this home, the reason why they love this home, and the reason why they're going to take just as great care of it as you did, that is a huge thing as well. If they can go down to a personal level with your buyers and connect with them, I think that's a huge thing. Now, some sellers are all numbers, some sellers are emotional. So it's all going to depend on that.
Awesome. And just to go back just one tick back to the report that you put together, and I love the letter, the personal letter from the buyers, but you also do give the buyer's agent kind of your interpretation of the market, your interpretation of the area, your interpretation of the comps. And I will tell you that as a listing agent, I don't get that very often at all. But when I do, I am super stoked, because you just saved me a whole bunch of time when I know I'm going to have to send it out to the appraiser, and I know I'm going to have to do some justifying with the appraiser. So
that's true.
I all of a sudden love this buyer and this buyer's agent, and it just kind of solidifies it that much more.
And it also demonstrates your knowledge. It demonstrates that, once again, once you get into this transaction, the listing agent and the buying agent we're a team. We're all trying to make this work for our buyers and sellers. And if you have someone that's inexperienced as the buyer's agent or the listing agent, that hinders everyone. I'm dealing with that right now in a transaction that the home under appraised, the buyers really want it. I'm representing the buyers, and the listing agent is inept. It's very, very frustrating.
Sometimes you're stuck with who you got to work with.
Right. I mean, I can tell you, and I know Matt can tell you too, in all of our years, and you probably have, many a time I have guided, coached, and basically trained another agent, because I know how it needs to go. I know how they need to speak to their client, and I want my client to get this house.
Yeah.
So I've literally coached. You want me to be your mentor? I can do this. You know what I mean? I've literally coached other agents. This is what we do for our clients. It's not all about finding them a house and having them sign on the dotted line. There's so much experience. There's so much stuff tied up in this that I think people sort of don't realize that. So thank you for doing that. And I know the other listing agents out there, I totally appreciate it. So let's talk. We got a couple more things here before we scoot, but let's talk inspections. Is there anything that we can do in inspections? Is this important? Matt can probably speak a lot to this just based on his neck of the woods and the things that he does. But talk to me about inspections, guys.
Yeah, well, Matt and I love inspections, so you start, Matt.
Well, and Alex, your boots on the ground. So I think I think it's best to kind of start with what your take is from this offer stage, what we're talking about. What are some of the things that you can do from that initial offer that highlights the inspection to give you a little bit of an edge on other offers?
So the one thing, so every single Arizona purchase contract, the boilerplate amount of days for your inspection period is going to be 10 days. Okay. Now, that can be made a little bit more aggressive by shortening those amount of days. Now, don't just go ahead and shorten the amount of days, okay? Call your preferred inspector, or call your buyer's preferred inspector first and be like, hey, Mr. Inspector, when can you get in and inspect this property? And it's all going to depend on the property too. If it's a 50s or 40s or 30s home, you may need those 10 days still, because you got to get a sewer guy in there, you got to get a roofer, electrical,
AC,
all those guys. So you may still need those 10 days. But if it's a 2000s or 90s property, you yourself, the agent or buyer, have observed a new AC on there, they've already told you about a new roof, et cetera, shorten those amount of days. You got the seller property disclosure statement, which discloses all the repairs and upgrades that they've done. Call your inspector. He says, oh, I can get there in 3 days. Okay, shorten that bad boy to 5 days for your inspection period. The seller's going to love that. because they're going to see like, okay, these people aren't playing games. They're going to move along through this contract and they're not going to waste any time. And that can be something that you can play to your advantage up front with your contract.
Well, because let's look at it from a seller's standpoint. They're taking their home off of the market. You can't sell it to more than one person. So they're taking their home off of the market now for 10 days for God knows what to happen. They don't know. A buyer can cancel for any reason. There could be a sex offender that lives down the street or air traffic noise or something like that, right? And so from a seller's standpoint, look, I want to sell my house. I want to tie it up as quickly as possible. I would quite love to have half of an inspection period versus the entire amount.
Absolutely. And even if it's one day, you know what I mean? That one day, sometimes that just, instead of 99% of agents will always leave that boilerplate 10 days, that line blank. And listing agents are used to skimming through the contract. And when they all of a sudden see a different number there that's less, that triggers, whoa, experience, a little bit more aggressiveness. They're not messing around. So even if it's 1 or 2 days, it's amazing how that can happen. Secondly, to kind of go back on that is like, say for instance, you're like, your buyers are a little bit nervous or whatnot. Most of the time, if you go back to the listing agent, say request a 7-day inspection period, and your inspection happens on the 5th or 6th day, you realize, oh my God, we need to get, there was a roofing issue. We need to get a roofer out there to look a little bit deeper. When you reach out to that listing agent and say, hey, we're going to have to extend our inspection period, possibly 1 or 2 days, because we want to further inspect this just to make sure there's nothing here and we're all good. 99.9% of the time, the listing agent's fine. Obviously, if you're asking for 10 days more, they're going to say kick rocks. But if you're just asking for 1 or 2 days, it's good. So I guess sometimes it's that old saying, it's almost better to ask for forgiveness versus permission.
But it's not an exact science.
Not an exact science, and we can that's a whole different.
Don't try this at home, kids. But something that you guys are saying is really, really important, and that is the level of experience of the agent that is altering the contract, basically, so that they know that they have an appropriate team in place behind them in which to serve this buyer appropriately. So that means having a team of inspectors that you've worked with for years upon years upon years. You know how they work, you get it, they get you. We have inspectors like that I know, right, guys, will drop everything for us, right?
Yes.
Right? And not only that, but like Matt said, you need to have a good roofer lined up. You need to have an AC guy, a pool, a septic. Like if you're an agent that has just gotten your license and just kind of jumped into this pool, you probably don't have that lined up.
Well,
make those relationships.
Relationships are key, but the other big thing that's huge on this is the real estate's agent ourselves, our knowledge of our product. There's so many agents out there that say, hey, we sell homes, but they don't understand homes. They don't even understand the basic things that come up in roofing, basic things that come up in inspections, where we're not licensed contractors, but we've done thousands of transactions and we've seen pretty much everything that come on an inspection report. So we know how to kind of give at least that initial guidance to our buyers with confidence, with experience, and to assure them, hey, we got you covered. Where a lot of these inexperienced agents, oh, I just got out of school or I do this, but I don't know anything about roofing. I don't know anything about foundation cracks or settlement or anything like that. And then they're freaking out, and then their buyers are freaking out, and that doesn't serve anyone.
They don't know what's major and what isn't. So there's a really good example, a personal example of what we're talking about that happened in our past. And it's actually one of the properties that we own. So Matt and I are married, if you haven't gathered that yet. And we work together and we have a kid but wow. But we bought this house a couple of years ago, the Westwood house. Yeah. And it was listed at a very deep discount, and it was because there was some foundation stuff going on.
Yeah, there was ultimately there's gaping cracks throughout the whole house, all this. I don't know if you want me to say it, if you want to keep going, but
sure.
All right. But ultimately the buyers, the sellers, they had a contracting company that came out and did the foundation stuff. And there's only 2 foundation repair companies in Arizona, and you're never going to get a bid less than $80,000.
Right.
At the end of the day, we were able to recognize that, this was an issue that was something we could explore differently. And we did. We got a structural engineer that came out and was able to identify that this was manifesting from something that
we could fix.
We could fix at a price substantially lower.
Right. So long story short, because of the experience level or lack thereof of this listing agent who guided her client inappropriately, we got a super screaming deal because we know how to fix stuff.
Smoking deal. And all he would have had to say is, maybe we should get a structural engineer, or maybe we should do this instead of, I don't know what to do. We just need to call foundation.
Just sell it for nothing. Just sell it for nothing. And
So
basically we bought it for nothing. So yay us. So just kind of a little story there, but we got to wrap up, guys. We're getting a little bit long here. Like I said, audience members, we have a lot more. We could probably talk another hour on the things that we do to coordinate a good, solid offer for our buyers that oftentimes is the winning bid. I will say, from a listing agent standpoint, you guys back me up here, I can't stress enough the professionalism and the experience level of your agent. Like, I just can't. Research them, make sure Google knows who they are. That's a really big one. You know, how many properties have they sold before? Do not be the first one. Do not be who this agent cuts their teeth on. That's not going to go well for you. That's like walking into the doctor's office and being the doctor's very first patient. I don't know about you, but I'm all set. Like, I don't want that. Another thing too, is we talked about the lender. Who the lender is in terms of the listing agent's standpoint is really, really important. You know, again, is it a lending, is it a bank or whatever, or a lender that I've never heard of before? There's not a lot I haven't heard of. So if I haven't heard of it before, that's probably pretty bad and not going to go the way that we want it to go. So definitely the lender makes a difference here, as well as the agent. And then lastly, just in terms of financing and the, you know, how solid a buyer is in terms of the listing agent's perspective, I like buyers that have money. I like buyers that come in that have, you know, a decent down payment. Yes, I understand FHA is a great program. VA is a great program. We love those. We work with those as well. But if I can talk with the other agent, especially like if the buyer's agent calls me and I'm like, you know, I realize they're VA, but, you know, do they have a little bit of money behind them, or are they basically just scraping by right now? Because I know that things are going to come up in the inspection, most likely. I anticipate sometimes issues in the appraisal. And these are times that we're going to need to negotiate with the buyer on behalf of our sellers. And if the buyer's flat broke, that tends to be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point.
Thank you, my love.
And, you know, and just real quick on this other one is, like, a lot of agents, and you deal with this all the time, they feel like they can be, and Alex, you probably do too, the strong, aggressive agent, the guy that's the old school negotiator, the jerk, the guy that's like, I'm the best negotiator and no one can do better than me. And it's a big measuring contest. If your agent's demonstrating any of those characteristics, just know it's not going to help you.
Run the other way.
Yeah, run the other way. This isn't something, you're not buying a car or buying this product that you can just impulsively buy and turn around. No, that characteristic is toxic, and it's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt anything you're trying to do.
Doesn't work like that anymore.
No, it doesn't.
And yeah, and we've seen many a train wreck because of that. So stay away from that. All right, guys. So thank you so much, Alex, for spending a little bit of time with us, for being here today.
I had a lot of fun. Thank you, guys.
You're so welcome. You're my favorite agent. Sorry.
You're my favorite agent, Matt. You're my favorite.
The podcast gets that. So.
Only if they're agents. So, audience, thank you so much. Again, this is episode 1 of season 2. So we're going to be back every other week with wonderful conversations, things to teach you a little bit about our lives, like we just kind of pepper in our life a little bit here with our real estate advice. So that is the name of the show. It is R.E.A.L, R-E.A.L, with Matt and Katie. That stands for Real Estate and Life. And what we would love for you guys to do is whatever platform, whatever your favorite platform is, our very favorite platform is iTunes. Okay, so maybe that's yours too. But whatever your favorite platform is, please rate us, please review us, please download, please subscribe. We want to make sure we get the real news out to the real people, don't we?
Yeah, and share that. If you know some buyers that are possibly entering the market, be a good friend. Send this information to them.
Friends don't let friends buy with inexperienced agents.
Yes.
All right, guys. Peace.
Bye.